Welcome to KennyRoy.com. I'm Kenny Roy. This is the lecture for the month of February 2013. It is called Staying Alive. Staying alive, right? You love it. I love it. I know you do too. This is a lecture that is going to cover how to keep a character alive. Basically, if you're working in games, this would be called like an idle cycle. If you're working on a shot in a feature, commercial, TV, visual effects, whatever, it is basically how to keep your character looking like they are alive. That's pretty much it. So it's a very simple concept, a little bit tricky in application, but that's what I'm here for. I'm here to kind of unravel the mysteries, be a mystery unraveler. That's my job, and it's very simple. Of course, you know me. I'm going to take a workflow approach to this, and we're just going to basically walk through a shot. My company, we do a lot of this kind of stuff. We have a couple TV shows that we've done in the past that have character turntables. Basically, they in one show called Destination Truth, they would go out into the field and they would look for an animal and take footage. And when they were describing what they were looking for, we would do the visual effect of the character turntable. And normally that would mean the character kind of idling there, staying alive, and doing a couple unique actions, but also, you know, having to look like it's like breathing naturally and that kind of stuff. This does, if you think about it, this does boil down to a lot of secondary action. Breathing is a secondary action because you can color breath. Remember, secondary action is anything you can really like fine tune or change or color to make it so that it has like a unique impact on the way you're seeing, the subtext of your scene is being basically displayed or hidden, depending. So anything that can be changed, anything that is that we all have a baseline for it. So breathing, like baseline would be just like normal breathing. But if you do like a deep sigh, well, that's a way that you've done a different kind of breath. You know what I mean? So that being the case, we use breathing as a secondary action. What's that? We use breathing as a secondary action, and the great thing about breathing is that, especially in cycles, it is one of those things that you can have be a little bit off, and it makes your cycle feel like even better. I'm not going to be concerned and consumed with making this cycle actually loop. I'm going to be, as you see, I mean, we do so many of these. Like, I have a workflow. That's how I came up with the idea for this lecture. I thought to myself, like, I want to do another workflow lecture. I really enjoyed animating the last lecture. What can I do? Oh, you know what? We do a ton of Keep Alive. Let me just bang out a Keep Alive shot for the members. See if they like it. I know you will. So anyway, the workflow is going to be basically, you know, I'm not going to worry about keeping this like a looping cycle. You're going to see how I like layer it in. I'm also going to make use of animation layers. So if you've been, I've gotten a couple of emails in the past of people who've been like, hey, you talk about animation layers and you do a little bit of animation layers in the video mails. But I'm interested in seeing something, you know, in the lectures. So sometimes people ask that, and here we go. We're going to get a little bit of that as well. So it shouldn't, like I said, we do so many of these. It shouldn't take too long. Okay. So I'm not going to belabor any longer. I'm just going to jump right in, and we'll see what we can get done in like an hour or so. But pay specifically attention to how much I'm experimenting and watching. my workflow has changed so much over the past, I would say, like 3 years. Maybe it has something to do with how fast the computers and the rigs are getting. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that I've just been able to work faster. But the proposal that I've had in my last couple workflow videos, which is that the best animators in the world, which I am not, I'm nowhere near, okay, at all. But the best animators that I've ever seen are not always taking one perfect step in front of another. When they add something to a shot, it's not exactly what it's supposed to be. And then the next thing is also exactly what it's supposed to be. That's not at all how the best animators work, right? They are so fast at trying ideas out. And it's so much easier to pick out the better idea out of a choice of a few than it is to try to think in your head and place perfectly and time perfectly the first time. So pay specific attention to how much I'm relying on feedback from what I'm seeing to give me like my next step, to show me what I need to do, to show me where I need to go, all those things, okay? Pay attention to that. Maybe you can make that part of your workflow. The very basic workflow is this. I start with what I call circular movement. It is, especially with like creatures like this, everything moves in arcs, of course, and I find that just like an overall kind of circular movement is good, and it's back and forth and up and down. It's not side to side. It's just back and forth and up and down. Then I add the breathing in. The breathing is a part of that. It is almost timed with the circular movement, but it's a little bit off. Like I said, when you have it just a little bit off, it looks a little bit more natural. It looks a little bit better. Those kinds of things. Okay, the circular movement, I should say, is not the breathing. It's not. That's not what it is. They are a little bit off of each other, so that it looks like the character is breathing, but at the same time has like this wind-up kind of muscle going on. And then I pick out some well-defined moments, all right, so that I want like either like a swipe or a roar or something like that. I'll add like 1 or 2 of those in to this turntable, and then I'll deal with looks, because looks are a little bit different than the well-defined moments, in that the looks are a great moment for you to either turn down that breathing and that circular movement, to make it a secondary action. If you have the book How to Cheat in Maya 2013, you know that the secondary action that's in the book is done on an animation layer. And it's this guy tapping, and he looks up and he sees somebody. And if you play with the weight of that animation layer, you can make it stop, almost as if he's really paying attention as they walk by. And then as he looks back again to the table, you can start it up again. So that's stopping normally. And a secondary action can have just as much power and weight and visual impact as doing the secondary action itself. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to do like one kind of look, and we're going to dial everything down to make it look like he's really focused on us for a second, and then goes back to what he's doing. It really ups the intensity, especially when it's a big scary creature like this. The idea is to get the audience feeling like, oh my gosh, he's looking at me, and oh, okay, no, he looked away. That kind of moment of holding your breath. And in that way, it's almost self-referential, which is kind of clever to do as well. If he looks like he's holding his breath, the audience might hold theirs as well. Now, that's it. Circular movement, breathing, a few well-defined moments, and looks, and we're done. So like I said, this should take about an hour to bang this out. 360 frames. So 15 seconds at 24p. And we're going to do this in an hour. What do you think of that? Impressive. I'm impressed. I haven't even done it yet. Oh man, I'm so excited. All right, let's get going. All right, so here is our character. Like I said, We do a lot of these kind of cycles, a lot of turntables for creatures. And here's like a typical one. And this creature is just standing here. I have him in a start pose. I set a key. I'm in the animation layer menu, all ready to go. And probably the first thing I'm going to do is find that circular motion, but I'm going to do that on a new animation layer, so I can turn that off and on as I see fit. Okay, so the way you do that is you have to add the basically the controls that you want to your animation layer. So this is going to be just the spine. So I'm going to select the spine, which includes the neck and the head. And I'm going to just click on this button, which adds a new animation layer, and rename this circular. Okay, and now I want you to, again, I mentioned before, I want you to pay specific attention to how much I'm letting the animation kind of like talk to me. I'm letting the animation basically come out, and I'm going to observe as I'm doing it. Okay, so I'm going to set a key on frame 1, and I'm just going to arbitrarily. I mean, this is completely arbitrary right now. I'm going to constrain it to just the Z and the Y axis because like I said, I want to be forward and back, up and down. I don't want any side to side right now. Yeah, so I'm just going to just roll forward like a certain number of frames and just kind of make a circular motion. All right, and then back to this one. All right, so here he goes. See that? Now, here's the thing we know about circular motion is that one channel is like a sine wave and the other channel is like a cosine wave. And if you don't know what that means, you might want to go back to the good old mathematics textbooks and look that up. But basically, one channel is supposed to be like a sine wave, and the other one is cosine, meaning that the movement is opposite in a wave direction for either one of these. And this is kind of what we have, right? So you don't even have to be really precise about it. You can now that I have these curves, I can just edit. Oops, sorry. Just edit the keys and build basically the motion that I know that this kind of action takes. I'm not sure if that's clear or not. I'm basically going to just build a sine wave because I know that it's supposed to look like a sine wave. Does that make sense? You see this? So now we have like a sine wave. And it, get it close, but you don't have to get it mathematically exact. As long as the tangents are pretty darn close, you don't need to really get too crazy. All right. And basically, like I'm almost done with that curve. And now this one is pretty easy. Just flat everything and make it like this. Somewhere in the middle, okay? So now we have our two curves. And we can basically, using this, we can see that there is a circular motion. Let's really quickly grab these curves and make them pre and post infinity cycle, okay? So then we can watch. Now, I made them arbitrarily. Remember, I am the kind of guy that makes everything like totally arbitrarily and then like edits it in place and into place and into time, right? Okay, so I'm gonna hit play and I'm just going to see like what am I getting here? Is it any good? Is it too fast, too slow, too broad? All right, I would definitely say he's going too far forward. Where's my forward key? Okay, so let's have that a little bit more back there and probably a little bit too far back. Okay, so let's just scale this just a little bit. Okay. You see that action? It's very, very, very slight. In fact, we can reduce it even just a little bit more. You know, let's just get a little sneaky here. Let's just reduce both of those just a little bit more. And remember, if I mean, these are opposite waves basically. So if I get, how should I put this? If I get, it's actually kind of hard to describe. If one of these curves is bigger than the other, then it's going to basically make the path like an oval, or an ellipse. Oval is like, I think oval is supposed to be like bigger on one side than the other, or like an ellipse. So if the back and forth is a bigger curve, then it'll be like this. It'll be an ellipse that is forward and back, and it's shorter than it is wide. Does that make sense? Anyway, so it's not like these need to be the exact same size either, is what I'm trying to say. And there's obviously a bigger change in the, this is a bigger distance from the top of this to the bottom of this is a bigger distance than the top of this to the bottom of this. So he's moving, actually it's already moving in a little bit of an ellipse, okay? So it doesn't need to be exact. I'm going to make it so that he's moving just a little bit less forward and back and just a little bit more up and down. Okay, now remember from the cycles that we've done before here on KennyRoy.com, remember from How to Cheat in Maya, how we do cycles. I'm going to create, check this out, watch this. So this is 140, let's just get a little bit organized here. Let's turn off Y and Z and just delete everything else. All right, and now let's make this an even number, 1 to 140, okay? All right, so now we've got a nice even number. Let's go 200. I'm just gonna check this out. I'm just gonna show you how easy it is to keep track of everything, even when you don't have, well, I mean, you don't have any animation on any other controller, like on a certain keyframe, all right? So here's what I mean. So this is from 1 to 140. Let's go 201, all right? I'm just gonna set a key right here, okay? And 201 to 340, I'm just gonna set a key right here, all right? And I know that there needs to be basically rotation in the spine. I don't even care where it is. So I just leaned him forward. See what I just did? Okay, now here are my rotates. Okay, rotate X, all right? I can delete everything on translate Y and X. That's after those keys that I need for those. And here, now I can build basically the rotation in the spine that I need. Does that make sense? So I can set this to be pre and post cycle, and now figure out exactly where this needs to be. Okay, so I'm just going to hit play. All right, so it should probably be the opposite of what it is right now. Actually, that's a really good offset. That like worked perfectly. All right, it's a little. He's leaning a little far forward, I would say. So let's just make everything just a little bit further back. In fact, this is still just a little bit far back now. Okay. All right, cool, very cool. Now, if we go over to, now we have our basic circular motion, right? Now, if we turn this off, all right, We still have our base animation layer, which has no keyframes on it. And we can edit, watch, see if I hit play and turn back on my circular motion and then bring the weight down, look, we can actually edit it. So we can animate that weight. So we can do some pretty interesting things when we're animating the keep alive on this guy. Okay, so let me just mute that channel, and then let's add the breath. Okay, the breath is going to be very easy to do. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to add the spine. So we'll add a little bit more to the circular, like maybe a little bit more overlap, breaking it up along the spine. But I want to add the breath right now, so I'm sure that I'm getting I'm getting this in there, kind of a little bit like unadulterated and untainted by anything else early on. Okay, so I added another animation layer. Let's call this one breath. Okay, breath or breathe. I'm never sure because I have my wife is from a Commonwealth country, so I never know what has an E on it and what doesn't anymore. It seems like all the shops are SHOPPE over there. Like you never get any normal shops. Anyway, I don't know why I'm complaining about that. Why would I complain about that? It's actually very classy. Shoppy. Okay, so let's do the breath. Breath is pretty easy too. Like I had before, no keyframes on this animation layer, so that he's not moving or anything at all, right? Now breath is basically going to be just rotation, and what's nice about this rig is that when you have the head isolate on, it actually looks like a little bit of like an inhale because his head stays straight. So it's actually kind of cool. You want it to be, you don't want it to be in phase with the circular motion. And the circular motion is a lot slower because you don't want it to look like your character is like doing exercise. You don't want to look like your character is doing aerobics. You want your character to look like, you know, he's just like staying alive, right? So the breath, we're going to key, what do we have? Like generally 140 is how long the what do you call it, the circular motion is. So that would mean 140 divided by 2 is 70, divided by 2 is 35. 35 is good. So let's just really quickly, and it doesn't need to be exactly on though, so that's the thing. So, but they're different timed anyway. So just generally it's fine to do it like this. Don't think though that it needs to be exact. I'm just doing it like this because I can get a nice even number from doing this, right? So basically, I'm just going to go like this. I'm grabbing all the controls, and he's basically just going like this, up and down, okay? But obviously that looks terrible. So actually, let me add the jaw as well. All objects off. Grab the jaw. Add selected. 1:16:35. Now let's just open this up. Okay, so I'm going to grab all of the objects, select all objects like that, go into my outliner. One of the problems with Maya is that it shows you all the grayed out channels of the ones that you're not working on, and that is so annoying unless I don't know how to make it so that your view is only what you have selected. You have to click over here on the layer editor again, and then it brings up just what you're working on. I think that's the only way that you can do it, with the object selected as well, which is also a pain. So, anyway, pre-infinity cycle, post-infinity cycle, and if you notice, I set a key. I always grab my objects and I set a key first. The reason I do that is so that I don't have the additive controls. And what I mean by that is this. If you select, like, let's say the hips right here, and you make a new animation layer, and then you just go like this and pose him and whatever, well, guess what you're going to have? When you, on this animation layer, see how when I mute it, oops, I needed to set a key. I'm sorry. Let me just set a key first. Okay? And let's say I just position him right here. All right, if I mute that, look how he pops back down here. I'm getting additive motion on this character right now. I'm getting him moving because I accidentally posed him before I did my motion. Does that make sense? Hopefully it makes sense. So here's what I'm trying to say. The base animation, you have to be super careful to make sure that your base animation is always like the main animation, like the main pose, the main whatever, okay? And so this is what that means. You select all your objects and you make sure, like I did, that you set a key. You set a key right off the bat, okay? Right off the bat. And that way, all of these values, you know that they're going in and out of the value that is basically 0. Does that make sense? And so, like with the circular motion, we needed the circular motion. We did a little bit of editing to the circular motion, but it was small enough that this change is not, even if it's additive, but this little change in the circular motion isn't changing a huge amount. And we wanted it additive kind of on purpose on top of the base animation. But the breath is going to be such that, like, if he's like standing up too tall or whatever, doing his breath, well then shucks, we need to edit the pose in the base animation. It really comes down to that. Okay, and so if we get to that point, I'll show you what I mean. If we get to that point. Okay, so here's the breath, and I know this is absolutely way too big, but what I'm going to concern myself with is actually making it so that it looks good in motion, and then I'll edit the size kind of later. So let's tilt this down. Geez, none of these objects have keys. What did I only edit one? Only edit one? Oops, let me turn off circular. All right, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. Why does that not look? I think, therefore I am. No, I think that I forgot to turn on circular for pre and post cycle for everything. Okay, here we go. Here we go, okay. So now it's going back and forth and he's breathing in. Now, what would happen? I think that the jaw probably would close. The jaw would probably open first, right? If you're breathing, probably open more than this, and be a little bit biased towards the end of that, but start earlier, like this. Maybe a little bit later. Okay. The neck and head would be delayed. Okay, and now all of these controls, just your good old straight up offsets. Okay, so here's what we have. Yeah, that jaw is not timed correctly. And push it back to where it was. Something's wrong. I feel like I might have made a mistake with offsetting the head. Let me move it back. Yeah, let me try to move it forward. Yeah, that's what I wanted. I don't know why I thought backwards. Because now it really looks like he's like sucking in that air. It's weird. It's like if you follow, it's almost like a straight. The way that that works. In fact, it can probably get a little bit more. And now I know this is way too big. Don't get me wrong. I see what I'm doing here. But we have a controller. We have a weight channel that gives us absolute explicit control over how this is going to look. So there's like no danger at all of having this like really bite us in the butt. Okay, so here we are. Here's our breath. Right, and we can turn that up and down however we please. Okay, so let me save it real quick. Now let's look what happens when we put breath on top of circular. Okay. Okay. Obviously he's breathing so heavy, it looks like he's about to die. So let's bring it down to like 50%, like 0.5, see what happens. Oh, it looks so cool. How quickly he comes to life. Do you see that? And this is just 2 layers. I just want to point that out really, really, really quickly. So much of how a character's keep alive is built like normally has to do with trying to really like skirt the line of being very specific and being very like kind of regular and kind of like cyclical. So you don't have to go through that fight. We've only added 2 layers to this, and they're timed differently. One is, and they're sort of on the same long phase. Like their phase like goes with each other. It's like the second hand and the minute hand of a watch. But at the same time, the fact that there are moments where the channels almost kind of fight each other, it gives just enough visual interest to make it so that you see something and you're like, oh, that's like actually a little dirty, so it looks organic, it looks real. You know what I'm saying? You get a kind of a sense that the character is not performing when you have that those slight moments of dissonance, where like everything is like working and then like it just like kind of goes apart and then it comes together and then it falls apart again. Those, when it goes in and out of like harmony, I feel like that's what organic motion is, and that's 2 layers. And how long did that take? This thing says 23 minutes. Can you imagine 20 minutes and you already have like your base keep alive? Like the amount of animation on this character that like if you've been screwing around all day and you know your supervisor just started rounds and they're going to be at your desk in 20 minutes, like you might not get in trouble if they saw this, right? I don't know why I like invented this whole like scenario where you're screwing around at work. Come on, if you got a job, do your work. Come on, work hard, guys. Don't screw around. I shouldn't be encouraging you. No, in all seriousness, I'm not saying this is the best animation I've ever seen, but like this is like a great start. This is already enough where I can look at it and say like, man, what do I want to add on top of this? Like this is like a performance. Now I can really dive into this. Okay, so let's take just another quick glance at this. Okay, the breath might even still be a little big. Yeah, there we go. That's a little bit better. Okay, so that is the second part. Like I said, I mean, this is just workflow. Remember, I mean, I can't get away from the damn word workflow. It is. Unfortunately, I'm stuck. So we got the circular movement, then the breathing. then we pick out some well-defined moments. And when I say well-defined, what does that mean? It means we're going back into, I'm just going to mute those, going back into our base animation layer, okay? We're going to add these specific moments, and this is when you start working to camera. So the way that these turntables work is they start kind of like from infinity, and we zoom in on the character, and I'll probably, you know, scale this down even smaller in comp, right? And then work with this zoom and also zoom the footage, the rendered footage, to get us to where we are. But now it's time for me to actually add a couple of moments that that he can like acknowledge the camera, do something specific, because this is not supposed to be just keep alive. We're supposed to be actually looking at this character, right? This is supposed to be a turntable of you know what this character does. And this is a ferocious guy. This is like an 8 foot, 9 foot tall guy. So like a human would come up to like his elbow, and he's supposed to be very ferocious. Okay, so what can he do? He can roar. He can like swipe with his arm, like sort of like swipe and try to like scratch at the camera. He can do a stomp, perhaps, maybe take a big step and stomp his foot. So let's say that when he gets right here, he's going to do a roar, kind of like an erupting kind of roar upwards. And then when we come around on this side, he's going to do a swipe at camera somewhere around here. And the last stage that I said was to do some looks. Okay, so those well-defined moments, those aren't the looks. I'm going to do a look as we come around off this shoulder, because we've been staring at his butt for so long. By the time we get here, I'm going to have him actually do a look over here. And that's when we'll animate, we'll mute, well, not animate, we'll key the weight of these two channels, these animation layers, and that will give us kind of that performance of a secondary action. Okay, it'll kind of give us the same thing as if we were keying this entire performance as a secondary action, because it's almost as if, like I said before, it's almost like stopping a secondary action is as powerful as doing the secondary action itself. He's actually a little tall. I'll have to, before we render this, I'll have to actually maybe get a slightly wider camera angle so that we don't cut off the top of his head. Anyway, and that can all be solved, like I said. The base animation layer is where your major pose is. So if I bring him down here, right, the circular is going to add on top of that. But if I check the circular mute right now, it's not going to shoot back up to where it was, because this is the base animation. See, right? Oops, I forgot to set a key. My bad. So I gotta set a key right here. Okay, so now, well, so it pops up a little bit, but it's not as high as where it was before I set that key. Okay, so see there it is. See that little bit of space? Let me show you again. See that tiny little bit of space? If I bring him down here, right, and then I uncheck circular, turn circular back on, that's how much he moves. Actually, I did it when circular was muted at that time. You guys get the picture. You can see how much he's moving and how much space there is. Okay, so let's do that. Let's right as he arrives, let's have him do that that kind of like erupting kind of roar. Okay, and I have to, because I want this video to I want you to see all the steps in this video. I have to be very, very, very quick about this. So I'm going to be. Let's have him kind of anticipate up and back a little bit, and then downwards, and I'm going to use these keys. I do this a lot. I go back and forth, and I set a key by hitting S on all the keys that I just set, like a main body control, so I know that's at a full body. It's going to be a full body pose change. And then he's down here. And I'm blocking this in spline, I realize, and I'm kind of saying do as I say, not as I do right now, because of how, you know, how much you can get in a lot of trouble by getting ahead of yourself, blocking in spline. But I've done just enough of these where, you know, I know it's going to work. So then he goes a little bit of overdrive. And then normally the other way. And then right here. Now remember, the base animation has the circular and the breathing on top of it. So in a certain way, getting him back to this base pose is helpful, it's advantageous, because we know it looks good with the circular and the breathing on top of it. So copying a key to the end is a good idea, but let me make it very clear that you don't necessarily have to have everything come to a perfect stop at the same time. Excuse me. You can break these keys up. In fact, I recommend it. You should do, you know, normal good animation practices here and not have it all go into this. But I do recommend that you have a long, slow in. Like break these and really, you know, even though they're all going to be broken up anyway, break these tangents and really make this a strong slow in, okay? No matter what you do. But having them get back to base pose is going to be good because we know, again, that the circular and the breathing works nicely on top of this base animation, okay? So let me just see what I have here so far. So okay, watch that again. Okay, so there's a huge pop in here. Flat that. Delete that. Don't need this. Okay, there's a huge pop in his rote. All his rotes, actually. Why did that happen? This does not need to anticipate so drastically. I can smooth this. This guy's tangent is totally misbehaving. I'll deal with that later. So, okay. Now let's create just the movement on the spine here. Let's just smooth all of these and offset them just a hair. Be careful you're not moving anything on the other animation layers. I don't know why they allow access to them. Seriously. And let's really smooth. Let's really, sorry, not smooth. Let's really slow this in. Like that, okay? And now just the head. Head can probably be offset even more. Head and neck. And a little bit of roaring like that. Let's copy that key. Let it overdrive itself. And now this rotate needs to be insane like that. I might actually put a little bit of shake on the head. I'm debating doing it on a animation layer just because it won't screw up the rotations on here. In fact, let me save it and then try that. Don't be afraid to experiment. You're watching me create this scene in front of your eyes right now, so I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if mine is going to crash and destroy my file, so actually, now I'm super nervous. save a new version. I scared myself. You don't know what's going to happen. Don't be afraid to experiment. And if you screw up, the worst thing that can happen is you have to go back to your previous version. And how bad is that? How awful can life get? All right, so I'm going to add just this head shake, okay? And I'm just going to set a key. I'm going to set it on all channels. And remember, we're going to come back to that base post, right? Now here's what I was afraid of. Look at that. Instead of being able to middle mouse drag, I actually have to do like a clunky, dopey copy paste. Animation layers, they've got some quirks. They're not perfect, but they're not bad. They are not bad. Okay, so let me just smooth all these. Smooth those tangents. This rotate Y is looking pretty unhappy right here. That should be fine. All right, so now let's watch it with the head shake. Okay, one more time. Nice. If you guys are like me, then every single time you watch the animation, you have to make the roaring sound. There was this shot in King Kong, one of my friend's shots, and I just came up with the sound that a brontosaurus makes when it gets chomped on by a velociraptor, which sounds a little bit like this. I'm not going to do it because I want to like blow the mic out, but it sounds like this. Something like that, but very loud. And so my friend would, whenever he did a play blast, he would say like, hey, come take a look at this. And every single time I would watch it, and the velociraptor would run, jump, and chomp, and I would have to go like this. Tuk, tuk, tuk. Tuk, tuk, tuk. Right, like over and over and over, because I can't watch it without that sound. Anyway, good times. Where'd that story come from? That's silly. Anyway, so now we have a head shake, and now, I don't know, that didn't take too long, and the cool thing is here's my head shake, right? Now check me out. I've got a slider on the head shake too. So that's pretty dope. Pretty freaking dope. Anyway, so let's put it all together and just see where we are right now. See how everything is fitting together. The circular motion, the breathing, and our first specific action, which is the roar. I don't know. If you ask me, it's pretty cool. Okay. I probably need to get the arms involved. Let me get the arms involved. I'm going to mute everything except the bass. I'm going to go to the bass animation and just set a few keys on the arms here. In fact, let's delete the arms first. Seems as though these curves do not like to be. There we go. I was just seeing a big, like, sort of like a moment where it came alive, like too suddenly. So I just fixed that. What was I doing? Arms, right, arms. I know these are twinned. Don't worry about it. Really roll these shoulders forward. And then drop them back like that. Really open them up. Rotate these down. Flat these. Oops. Nice long tangents again. Gotta worry about stuff blending together. You gotta start worrying about it. You can't ignore it when you're dealing with this kind of animation, this layered approach. Okay, what the hell was that pop? Seems as though there's some weird keys right. Oh, that's what that is. Okay. Let's just grab all this. Make this a key. Copy this here, delete this one. Just trying to slow things down just a little bit. And we can see what happens if we make those. Geez, even the slowest slow in always has a little bit of you know, like death to it. But because we have the breathing, because we have the circular, we know that it's not actually going to come to its you know, visual demise. It's actually still moving. You know, depend on that a little bit. Okay, cool. So that was pretty fast. All right, and just because, in the interest of time, I'm not going to do the swipe on the other end. Around here, I'm going to do the look. Okay, I'm going to do the look the look at camera. Okay, I'll do the swipe on my own time, and then I'll clean this up and deliver it. Just going to do the look for now. All right, so let's have him look somewhere around here. Okay. All these keys, just set it and forget it. All right. Let's look now. With animals and creatures, your looks are much more with your head than they are like with your eyes. Like humans, and this guy's humanoid, so you kind of get away with a little bit of it, but you really want to use your head when you're looking with animals. They don't really track things with their eyes very much. It's mostly head. Okay. Now I'm keeping the breath circular and head shake doesn't matter, but I'm keeping the breath and circular unmuted so that I can track the camera with his head. And if I remove it, it changes the position. So I want to make the animation on the base layer with the breath and circular showing, so that it's not screwed up. And let's have him like size us up, right? Let's have him look down. and then look back up. Okay. And somewhere around here is where he's going to do the swipe. So I'll have him go back to looking forward, right? Okay, you see that? Very quickly, key. There's a lot of cleanup to do. In the interest of time, I want to make sure you see me do all this stuff. Right? If we hide the curves, I suspect that you won't be able to tell there's as many pops as there really are. Okay. Now you see that? Okay. So then, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of treat this moment. I can't handle this overdrive that's happening right now. Hold on a second. I gotta fix this. What's happening? Who are these people? Oh, that's what's happening. So this can be just a flat. I just want everything to be smooth. I know I'm a little anal. There's no reason for me to be this anal right now, because it's all going to be cleaned up later. But anyway, so we have this look, right? So he's turning and he's looking at us, and I have the keys on his chest, neck, and head going, from standard, from that base animation, that base pose, back to normal. What's going on here? FKIK is overdriving. That's weird. Let me just make sure that all these curves don't have keys on them. They don't need keys. There you go. All right, so he's looking at us now. What we're going to do, like I said, breathing is secondary action, right? And the circular is just a little bit to a certain extent. So let's key them. Let's be clever. All right, let's do this. Let's key them, and first you have to select the node, select layer nodes. Okay. So here's the weight. Where is it? Select layer node. That's interesting. How come I can't see the layer node? Select layer node breath. Now there should be a weight. Huh. Okay, that's weird. Let me see if I can. Oh, I need to key it first. Okay. So let's do this. Let's ramping up to this moment where he looks at us. Let's slowly drive that breath and circular up. Okay, so breath is right now it's at 0.347. Okay, and so let's say 250 is like our magic frame. Let's starting around like 150. Let's key it. Key. Right, so it's keyed. All right, let's go in circular. Let's key it. Okay, and then let's going up to 250. Let's key this and go a little bit higher. And on, looks like the weight of the circular is. Can you go over? Wow, you can. You can actually overdrive it. I had no idea you could overdrive the weight. Value must be less than or equal to maximum value. I wonder what that means. It's probably like, hey, don't do that. So what we can do to fix that actually is on this circular, we can actually make things just a little bit bigger, and then we can make the base movement of the circular just a little bit smaller anyway. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense to you. What am I trying to do? Oh yeah, we've got to select the weight. So you select layer node at the bottom, there it is, weight. And so 1.0 is too much because I just scaled everything up. Let's do like 0.5, okay? So then at 250, it's at this, and see it's moving a lot. So what I'll do is I'll key it down really quickly. I'll key it and take it way, 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 way down. And also the breath, I'll key it. Select the breath layer node and just make sure that I'm making keys. Yep, and I'll key it way, way down. Like that. And then as he watches us and is a little bit still, right? And then I'll key it and we'll take it back up. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. Key it, circular key, and then bring it back up by like here. Okay, so here's our animation of the weight of basically the secondary action, right? Because remember, it's basically a secondary action. It's anything that you can color. It's anything that you can basically change the level of the performance, alter it to make it basically perform, give the audience more than they're actually seeing kind of with their naked eye, right? You're giving them the subtext. So let's see, remember this is arbitrary. This is first attempt. Now we watch it, we assess, we make our judgment, and then we change it if we're not happy. All right. So we have our roar, and we come around, and the secondary is getting bigger and bigger, and then he looks, and then he stops, and then he goes back. See? There was a little bit of a hitch. What is that? Just got to make sure everything is the same. What is that? All right, I'm just going to copy this key. I'm having such weird luck with oh, it's not slowing in. That's what's wrong. Oops. And it's also cycling. I believe it's cycling. Let me just make sure. View infinity. Oops, something is cycling. Let me just see here. Oh, it's the, no, that's the weight. Let me just find out what's going on here. There it is. All right, what the heck is that? Just circular, please. Ah, breath. Ah, it's the silly breath layer. There we go. Okay. Wait. Just make sure everything's looking good. Okay. So I'm going to turn off the curves So we're watching just the character, okay? So let's watch one more time. We've got our motion, we've got the circular, we've got the breathing, he's staying alive, and then he notices us, and then it all comes to a dead halt, and then it comes back to life as we walk around. Okay? One more time. And that last breath, he really goes too far. Let me just, I know that it doesn't matter. Believe me, I know. I just can't let that go. Oh, everything should be flatted. Everything should be flat in this breath channel. Okay. Head shake, circular. Okay. Base animation doesn't need a cycle. It's fine. Okay. Cool. All right. So this guy is well on his way. I need to add that second specific moment where he swipes at the camera at the very, very, very end. But we have our motion. We have our character breathing. He notices us. It comes to a stop, and then it comes back to life again. It all worked together without fighting because I was very careful about how I was creating my layers and my animation on top of those layers. I was sure to go back to basically a zero pose change in all of my layers, even my base animation, because I didn't want the breath or the circular to fight against that. I even added a layer that I wasn't planning on, which was the head shake, so I can dial that up and down. So that worked out nicely. So there's a lot in here with very little work. And if I hide those curves, the curves kind of give it away sometimes when there's pops and stuff like that. But if I hide those curves, you know, this guy is well on his way. Very, 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 very close to being able to be just like polished and put away for the client. And that my watch right here on the screen capture says 58 minutes. So I know for a fact if my client gave me something and I gave them back this in an hour, if I showed them this in 1 hour, they would be very pleased. They would be over the moon happy about being able to see, you know, just a little bit about how this character acts. Like, they might say, oh no, he's moving way too slowly. He's more powerful than that. He can move quicker than that. Make him quicker. And then, you know me, I take a fundamental approach, and my keys are very, very, very sparse. So I would be doing a lot of scaling, be a lot of selecting and scaling in the timeline, and send it back to them in 10 minutes. You know, that one that's double speed or something like that. You know me. It's not lazy. It's smart. So that is your Keep Alive workflow, or at least the one that I like to employ. It makes very good use, I think, of layers. As long as you're smart, you won't get into any trouble. Start off with that circular motion, especially with creatures it helps, but you can do it also with like humans if they're standing, shifting actually like their weight as well is another way you could do it. I did forward, back, up and down. You could actually do up and down, side to side, same kind of thing, just like I am right now. But remember, it needs to be very, very, very slow, so that it doesn't really feel like a like exercise. It doesn't look like they're doing aerobics or anything like that. Then I like to add breathing. Breathing on top of that circular motion gave us like 80% of what we need. And that took 20 minutes. Then I add the specific motions. I add those things that are called out for. So in this case, a roar. I'm going to do like a swipe at camera at the very end, and that'll be it for that. And finally, looks. And looks you do at the end because you want to make sure that all the stuff that you have on top of there, if the character has a lot of layers, they will affect where that head direction is going to work. So you actually should even key the weight of those channels, which I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to go into that animation when he's looking. I'm going to have to go into that and fix that, because I did notice that when I keyed the weight of the circular motion and the breathing, that the eye line kind of got a little bit off. But I wouldn't say I'm bragging when I say that an hour is really good for this amount of work. Or I should say I'm happy where I got in 1 hour. So that's how I do it. I hope you have your own workflow, and that maybe this video helped you expand your mind and gave you some ideas to try. Remember, workflow is not just a one and done kind of thing. It's an ongoing process, and if you commit to it, I promise your animation will improve so quickly. It'll amaze you if you really jump into workflow. So that's my pitch for you to try that mindset out. If you have a scene that you'd like me to take a look at, I love getting scenes for Ask Video Mails. I'd love to see your scene. If you try out something in a lecture, send it to me and maybe I'll answer it in a video mail. Just dive into the site, dive into animation. It's the best way to improve quickly, is to really immerse yourself in this and give critique as well. The forums are there for you to help each other out. Last but not least, of course, the resource wish list is there for you to suggest content that you'd like to see in the future. Lectures like this, or even webcasts, anything you want. If you want it and it has to do with animation or performance, let me know in the resource wish list, which is in the forums. I hope you got a lot out of this. Thanks for being here on the site. Looking forward to a lot of awesome things coming up very soon. Good luck with your animation. And as always, rock on.